what would be your message for the diaspora?
I think the first thing is that diaspora need to make support for this country. No matter wherever you live, this is where your home is, this is where you are born, and this country needs your help. This society needs your help, and this country has a lot of ways to go, long way to go. So I think the diaspora response is very essential for this country to transition from current situation to a better situation. So don't undermine your effort, don't undermine, your contributions. When everybody's contributions come together, it will make a bigger impact in the society on the ground. So I would rather say, especially for those who are on the social media, they need to play a positive role. They need to contribute positively. If they have an issue, they can address their issue democratically. But whatever incitement you do online, especially on the internet, may impact people on the ground, including but not limited to up to days. And then it may aggravate the situation on the ground, especially the ethnic tensions in this country. And then if the diaspora effort is not positively included in Dr. Abiy's movement or transition, it will be difficult. Plus, I also have a message for the not only diaspora, but also political parties. Different political parties have the right to come and advocate or sell their ideas. So they need to also, during this kind of conflict, during this kind of tragedy, they need to really come together and show unity. For example, in the United States, if somebody even from the opposition, let's say from Republican, Democratic, or even Green Party, when somebody passes away or when somebody is tragically killed, everybody come together to unify the society, to unify the nation. So I think that is a good learning lesson to really, especially the diaspora has a role. They have heavy hands, long hands, especially on the media, when they come back here and educate people, change situations. For example, in this country, there is a volunteerism that Dr. Abiy always advocates for. There is always, sometimes, not every week or every month, there is a cleaning effort. Now, it's enough for Dr. Abiy to do that. He has already led by example. Now, the next is that somebody else or others who didn't participate should participate in a lot of things, a lot of ways, and then also come back home and do businesses, do whatever they want to, even including politics. So I would rather say my diaspora colleagues need to come help this country transition. After the transition, after the situation gets stable, I think people can do whatever they want to. But right now, we are not really there.
Some people also comment that the transition that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is leading the country in has been influenced by the political culture, the previous political culture of Ethiopia, and the previous ideologies from different parts of the world, like the socialists, the capitalists, and these ideologies all have influenced this situation. They said that. What's your comment on this?
Look, actually, sometimes people ask me, what kind of system does Ethiopia follow? Is it capitalism? Is it communism? Is it socialism? It's confusing, actually. It looks like a mix of everything. It's like spruce juice.
But is that a must to be led by these philosophies? Is that a must?
I think you need to categorize yourself to a definite way of governing your country. For example, in the United States, there is a capitalist economy, open market, free market. This country also is pretending. It's not still there. It's just trying to position itself into that. On the other hand, when it comes to businesses and stuff, when it comes to security and others, this country presents as Western allies. When it comes to businesses and technology and stuff, it's more tending to pretend China and others. So we know what kind of economy China's philosophy is and the United States is. So for me, I think this country is of democratic opinion, and that's where it's heading to, but it's still a long way to go. Like I said, Dr. Abiy is trying to trying to reform every sector of the society, every branch of the government, including the economy of the country, including the military, including the security, but it takes time. Everything doesn't kick right away. So I would say this country is following democratic way of open market, free market economy, but it's not, the job is not complete.
So you mean these ideologies are becoming an obstacle to the changes that are being led by Prime Minister Abiy?
It doesn't look like. The obstacle looks like more of political ambition of a segment of Ethiopian population. For example, the responsible, I don't have the, like I said, I don't have the facts, but the responsible, what happened in Bahir Dar and Shagar and Addis Ababa was, in Finfinne was sudden killing, which is a tragedy, and the chief of staff. So that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen tomorrow. It may happen anytime, but what should be done is, what lesson is learned? Why this happened? Who is responsible? This has to be an independent investigation to show or to inform the citizens, so this will never happen again, and then society will participate equally with the government, hand in hand, and work our ways to make it a more secure country.
It was the question I was about to ask you that you raised, but let me repeat and clearly put my question that you of course touched. The government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hasn't learned from the challenges it faced. And last year in June, the assassination attempt against the Prime Minister was done,
yes,
but failed. And then soldiers invaded his palace. I mean, the commandos.
Yeah.
Those problems ought to have taught Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed's government. People comment that.
Maybe they have tried to reform a lot of government functions, including the military. I remember Dr. Abiy's long-hour presentation to the military to reform from top down. I remember him, sending off retired Chief of Staff General Samora. So that's part of reform that he has done. Well, this has been going on for almost 3 decades. This military that you see has been established in different ways. So you cannot expect a positive result overnight or within a year. It may take a process. And may not, I mean, I'm not saying that Dr. Abiy and his administration has done enough. There is more work to be done. But the reform itself within the military is not enough because, like you said, I have an information. The Prime Minister addressed the Parliament that some of the militaries took part in this situation, was part of the palace, the invaders. So the problem is the system. If there is a system across, and then you can control, you can monitor. There is no computer system or any kind of indications that who has a tendency of what. So if once you establish the system, you will have a threat. For example, if you take the flight situation right now, people cannot fly sometimes. If they are in red flag, they cannot fly. They will be returned from the flights. So how do that detected? Because every community, they have indicators. If I have suspicion on somebody who has criminal background, then as a government, they'll have to keep an eye on. And the person who took action, who was a commanding lead on this coup situation, was in jail during the previous administration. And exactly, and then he came out, and then he was given a position, and he took this action. That should have been red flag, Why was he there in the first place? How was he released? And if somebody was in opposition of the previous system and then now, he cannot come automatically and support this system. He may have a root cause. You have to verify and find out that. So in order for this government to detect threats and then dismantle, the administration really needs some sort of systematic identifying of threats
Smart intelligence is important.
Exactly, and they may have, but it may not be enough to detect early, and that might be a failure, I can say. It's not because not paying attention. It's because once you establish such a system, if you have, let's say, 500,000 armed forces in this country, as an example, and then out of that, there are bad apples who can turn guns around. This happened in the United States. For example, in Fort Hood in Texas, an army general turn it around and then shoots the member of the army, his colleagues. So this happens in many countries, truly. But early detection is very essential, and then don't take chances. Take them away, and then if there is a counseling needed, PST, they call it post-traumatic stress and everything. In the military, there are some of them who are dissatisfied with the situation. Some of them may be not happy there. So this has to be done and assessed. Dr. Abiy by himself cannot do this. Once he lay out the plan and the system, then the system has to do itself. That's what I think is, that link is maybe missing.
Prevention is better than cure.
Cure, yes.
And we're about to finish our interview. What is expected from the media and the public to sustain these reforms and the changes in the country?
The media, I think, has to be affirmative, positive, and then be accountable, and then favor the people. If there is a question of people which is not answered, of course, money, then they can positively address that and have a dialogue and get a response. Diaspora cannot reach here with a gun, but the diaspora motivated elements in this country, a segment of the Amhara community, which doesn't even represent the mass Amhara population, is doing this, has done this. So the bottom line is that, number one, what is the dissatisfaction? Why this happened? And what is the connection between the diaspora elements and this? For example, what I know is that during the fundraise on internet, there was a fundraise that I saw. Even churches contributed to. You see that who contributed from where? And from this state, from that state, this amount of money, everything is on display. And people were warning. I don't think the government took that warning so seriously. The public always have, information, and they complain, but no action is taken immediately. So I think the government's ear should listen to the people to take action immediately to avert any kind of such an action. This country has come a long way, and this country is luckily got to here with a lesser sacrifices than compared to many other countries where you can mention an Arab Spring where a lot of thousands of people sacrificed, and still the change is not as desired. And so I would say the government also need to be swift, critical, not just wishing to, transition quick, but it takes time from both the public to understand this, own this change, and then work from the grassroots level all the way up. And then if there are some dissatisfied segment of the society, the government need to include them, invite them, make hard talk, debate, talk over issues. When people are silenced, I don't mean that the Prime Minister Abiy government has silenced the people, but I would say if there is a tendency to silence people, there will always be a resistance. No question about that. We have gone through that. That part is over now. That chapter is gone. That's part of the history. Right now, I can speak my mind freely. I can oppose to an idea. There is also EPRDF now is a kind of old lion. So the EPRDF itself needs to evaluate itself as a ruling party of this country. And the EPRDF should make itself ready should other parties make alliances and challenge them. If the EPRDF really truly doesn't democratize itself within, then it doesn't democratize the country. If anybody is capable and comes from anywhere, nobody cares. What people want is some change, some reliable change, some capable leader. And Ethiopia is lucky to find a leader like Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed because he's capable, educated, young, inspirational, charismatic speaker. I think we need to support and rally behind him. He may not be perfect. He's a human being. He may have some weaknesses. He's young. He's getting educated every day by day. But he is sure to lead this country, and he has navigated this country into the right direction, I think, better than many others. If I assume if anybody takes this country, let's say if Obama was the leader of this country in the last 1 year, like Abiy did, I think Obama wouldn't do different than what Abiy is doing right now. I don't think he would do more than this.
Even lesser.
Probably, because the political situation in Ethiopia is very complex than the political situation in the United States, because in the United States, the society is educated. In Ethiopia, you have to really educate this society to know their rights and responsibilities. Democracy comes with responsibilities. People need to be responsible for their actions. If somebody is doing wrong, and that person should be held accountable and pay for the mistakes or for the crime they committed. So what we lack in this country is, number one, chain of systems that govern this country. Number two, being responsible for your wrong action. It starts from small. There has to be some citations if somebody intentionally commits a crime, in terms of money, in terms of imprisonment. We've been fighting for people to come out of jail. We've been fighting, and a lot of people are being released from the jail. That's good steps. But if people don't learn from this, for the government, it's easy to go back to, square one. But I don't think going back reverse is advisable for this country. So for that, the government need to take action. What they are there for, the government should enforce the law, and the citizens have the responsibility to follow the rule of law. Nobody is above the law. Everybody, including the Prime Minister, should be under the law. And the law should be the governing system for this country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.